Hello everyone. Today's presentation is about secure email protocols, POP3S and SMTPS. We'll go over how to configure these protocols on both Linux and Windows servers, ensuring they're working correctly and secured against potential attacks. I'm KRenaud1, and this is for CYBR4220 Server Systems, Spring 2025. Let's get into it. First, let's talk about the importance of secure email communication. Email is still one of the most widely used forms of communication and often carries sensitive data, things like personal information, login credentials, business contracts, you name it. The problem is, without encryption, traditional email protocols like POP3 and SMTP transmit data in plain text. This means that anyone intercepting the network traffic can read, steal, or even modify your email. Versions of these that are secure, POP3S and SMTPS, encrypt data using SSL or TLS. This prevents unauthorized access and tampering, protecting both the sender and the recipient. Let's begin with talking about POP3S. POP3 is a protocol used by email clients like Outlook or Thunderbird to retrieve messages from a mail server. The secure version, POP3S, adds encryption through SSL or TLS. This ensures your login credentials and email content can't be intercepted or read by third parties. POP3S listens on port 995 by default. Later on, we'll verify that our Linux server is listening on this port after we have it configured. Now, let's talk about how to configure POP3S using Dovecot on a Linux server. First, we need to install Dovecot with the appropriate POP3 and IMAP packages. Once installed, we edit Dovecot's configuration files to enable POP3S. Specifically, we define the listener port as 995 and enable SSL in the settings. Next, we provide Dovecot with an SSL certificate and a private key. These are what the server uses to encrypt and authenticate secure connections. Finally, we restart the Dovecot service to apply the changes. From this point forward, the server can handle encrypted POP3S connections. However, configuration alone isn't enough. We also need to secure the server. Let's talk about some best practices for hardening Dovecot. First, enforcing strong SSL/TSL connections and preventing older versions like SSL-v2 and SSL-v3 from being active. You can provide a prevention for a host of vulnerabilities. Only TLS 1.2 and 1.3 should be allowed to ensure strong encryption. Next, we can use chroot or jail environment to isolate Dovecot processes from the rest of the system. This limits what an attacker could access if they somehow compromise the mail service. Finally, Dovecot and its components need to be updated as much as possible. Patching known vulnerabilities reduces the risk of attacks targeting outdated software. Let's move on to SMTPS. SMTP, or Simple Mail Transfer Protocol, is used to send emails. Like POP3, its original version doesn't encrypt communication, leaving data, again, vulnerable to interception. SMTPS solves this problem by encrypting the connection using SSL or TLS. SMTPS listens on port 465 by default. Our goal will be to configure the secure port on both Windows and Linux systems. On Windows, we configure SMTPS using Internet Information Services, or IIS. The first step is to install the SMTP server feature through Server Manager. Once that's done, we open IIS Manager to configure SSL/TLS. Here, we provide a valid SSL certificate to secure the connection. The server needs this certificate to encrypt and authenticate email traffic. After that, we configure IIS to listen on port 465. Finally, we restart IIS services to apply the changes. This completes the setup for secure email sending on Windows. Now, let's talk about hardening SMTPS on IIS. First, require TLS for all connections. This prevents the server from accepting unencrypted email, ensuring that all data remains secure. Next, disable unnecessary features like anonymous relay. Anonymous relay allows anyone to send mail through your server without authentication, which is a favorite trick of spammers. Disabling it reduces the risk of abuse. Finally, enable logging. Logs provide crucial information about server activity, such as failed login attempts and unusual connection patterns. Regularly reviewing logs helps identify potential threats early. On Linux, we'll configure SMTPS using postfix. First, we install postfix, then we edit its configuration to enable SMTPS on port 465. This involves updating both the master and main configuration files to define the listener port and security settings. Next, we configure TLS by providing a certificate and key, similar to what we did with Dovecot. Once all changes are saved, we restart postfix. The server is now capable of securely handling outgoing email through port 465. Securing postfix requires a few key steps, though. First, enforce strong TLS by disabling weak protocols and ciphers. Just like with the Dovecot, only TLS 1.2 or higher should be allowed. Second, restrict email relay. This means the server should only allow authenticated users to send mail. Without this restriction, the server could be exploited as a spam relay, which could lead to blacklisting or even legal consequences. Lastly, implement rate limiting. Limiting the number of connections and emails the server handles at one time helps prevent denial of service attacks and other types of abuse. Now that we've configured both POP3S and SMTPS, it's time to confirm that the servers are listening to the correct ports. We'll use Nmap from the Kali VM to check this. The command, listed below. For POP3S, we expect port 995 to be open on the Linux server. For SMTPS, port 465 should be open on both the Windows and Linux servers. If both ports show as open, our configuration is complete. As you can see, the expected output there. Finally, here are the list of references I used for this presentation. These include detailed guides on configuring and securing Dovecot, postfix, and IIS. I encourage you to explore these resources if you'd like to learn more about the email protocols and gain a bigger understanding of what exactly the process that I've outlined here is. Well, that concludes the presentation. Thank you for your attention. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them in the comments or direct message me if you'd like.